Well, good morning, guys. It's Pastor Andy. Today's March the 2nd, and we're looking in Psalm 31 together this morning. Psalm 31 is another one of the Psalms that David wrote while his son Absalom was leading the rebellion against him. And the theme of this psalm that David keeps coming back to is running to refuge in the Lord. He starts out in verse number 1, "O Lord, I have come to you for protection. Don't let me be disgraced. Save me, for what you do is right." And that goes right along with verse 17 that says, "Don't let me be disgraced, O Lord, for I call out to you for help. Let the wicked be disgraced. Let them lie silent in the grave." David repeats himself, "Lord, don't let me be disgraced." He says down in verse 3, "You are my rock and my fortress." He repeats these first three verses here again in Psalm 71. And then in verse 5 it says, "I entrusted my spirit into your hand. Rescue me, Lord, for you are a faithful God." The beginning of that verse, Jesus himself quoted from the cross. But what it comes down to in verse 6, "I hate those who worship worthless idols. I trust in the Lord." And that verse is actually quoted in Jonah chapter 2 verse 8. And he repeats himself down in verse 14, "But I am trusting in you, O Lord." What it boiled down to was that no matter what was happening in David's life, his son was trying to take the throne and coming after him, which I can't imagine my son hating me so much or wanting something so bad that he's willing to kill me and overthrow me and tear me apart. But David kept coming back to the point of saying, "Lord, I am putting my trust in you." In fact, in verse 15, it says, "My future is in your hands." That's kind of like the Romans 8:28 of the Old Testament here. "Lord, my future is in your hands. You're in control of everything. I'm trusting you." Verse 19 says, "How great is the goodness you have stored up for those who fear you. You lavish it on those who come to you for protection, blessing them before the watching world." You know, David may have felt like he was being cut off. In fact, he says it in verse 22, "I'm cut off from the Lord, but you've heard my cry for mercy and answered my call for help." He may have felt like he was being cut off from God, but David was chastised, but he was never cut off. He was never abandoned. God was always there. And no matter what we face in this life, no matter what difficulty we go through, we can put our trust in God. It may feel like at times he's abandoned us and like he's nowhere to be found. And it might feel like that. But we can rest assured that God will never leave us and he'll never forsake us. He's promised us that. If we're one of his kids, he'll always be there. He's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. And that should give us such peace, such rest, even in the difficulties. I hope you'll get into this chapter and read it. There's a whole lot in this chapter and we just barely scratched the surface. But I hope you'll read it today, spend some time with the Lord, and talk to him. He talks to us through his word. We talk to him through prayer. So keep the conversation going with God. And until tomorrow, God bless you and have a great day.